Welcome to Red Clay This Month, the show that brings to light important issues that affect the students and the community in the Red Clay Consolidated School District in Wilmington, Delaware. I'm Dr. Judith Conway. I'm the Supervisor of Unified Arts here at Red Clay, and I'll be your host for this show. As you can well imagine, the safety and security of our students and staff is always a top priority. On today's show, we're going to discuss new security measures that we have in place in Red Clay schools. To get us started off today, please join me in welcoming Dr. Hugh Broomall, the Deputy Superintendent of the Red Clay Consolidated School District.
Hello, how are you?
Well, hey, Hugh, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming.
Yes.
It's always interesting to talk to people at the top to hear the overview of what's happening at Red Clay in light of certain issues. So today, of course, we're here talking about safety. And so what role does safety play in your thinking as you plan the big vision for the district?
Really, safety is an overarching theme in everything that we do. Although our primary business is the education of children, children have to feel safe in their classrooms. They have to feel safe on the buses. Our teachers need to feel safe in our schools. So we discuss security all of the time. We have a head of our security department, AJ Nowell, will be with you later. But we're working constantly during the summer. We had district meetings this summer on how we would handle a response to a crisis. Our school level teams are reviewing their plans to make sure that the safety procedures are in place. There's trainings, there's drills.
So each school has a plan, right?
Every school has a plan. And those plans are obviously ones that they practice. It's just not something you do when an incident happens. They practice at the beginning of the school year, and they review them periodically throughout the year as well. It also begins with our transportation. I know our transportation department, they look at what are the safe bus routes, what are the safe bus stops. So it really starts when we first see a child at the bus to the time we let that child off the bus. Safety is what we're concerned with.
Now, I'm sure there are laws that govern some of what we do as far as safety is concerned. Are there any new ones that we should talk about?
Recently, the state just passed House Bill 335. It's a regulation that will provide funding for security in our schools.
Oh, great.
And not to go too deep into details, but you could get anywhere from $4,000 to $30,000 per school, depending on how large. And you can use that to address any security needs you may have. So we're looking at our camera systems. Are our cameras in the right locations? Do we have the right cameras? Do we need to replace cameras? They're a big deterrent to folks. They see a camera and they may turn around and walk away. Cameras also help us if an incident does occur, to see what happened, who may be responsible, to see how we responded as a district, as a school. Do we need to do something differently? So cameras are a top priority. We also, over the last couple of years, renovated the front entrances to all of our schools. So,
I know. I've been in, I move around the district as well, and I have to say that although safety and security is the primary purpose, I think we've really done it beautifully, too.
I think they're very aesthetically pleasing. It's a more welcoming atmosphere when you enter our buildings. It allows us to see who is in our facilities. It helps if something were to happen in a facility to know who's in our building, make sure everybody was out. We also implemented a new process this year where everyone needs to use their badge to show that they've entered the building to start the day. And that really was a security measure more than anything else, so that if an incident occurred, we can quickly run a report and make sure all of our staff members have exited the building and are safe. We also have state troopers in 4 of our schools. We have 5 constables. They're there as not only to respond to incidents that may occur, but they're really there to be a role model for our students, to help show, hey, this is what proper behavior is. It adds security to students who may have a fear of school, to know that there's someone there that they can go to that can help them, that is a presence in their building on a daily basis.
And I think that's something that a lot of kids fear. Well, of course, they fear what they don't know. And if they don't know any policemen or don't know anybody who's in security, the uniforms can be intimidating, especially to little ones. So that's
certainly.
That's great.
I mean, for many folks, their first engagement with a law officer may not be a pleasant one because they're there to help protect against crime. But really, our officers and constables are there to serve as a role model for kids, that this is something they can aspire to, that the safety of our children and our teachers and our administrators is of chief concern. And they're there to be a deterrent and to be proactive and to help teach skills to our kids to help them de-escalate in situations of conflict.
Yeah, so they have a really wide role.
They do.
It's good we have them. Absolutely.
It is.
Absolutely.
And one other aspect that we've been doing for a long time in Delaware, not just in Red Clay, is we have many safety trainings that are required of our staff. Things such as child abuse awareness, suicide prevention. Those type of activities are training our folks to also be aware of what's happening in the schools, what's happening with our children, so that they can help before an incident occurs. We have our guidance counselors and our psychologists who are in their buildings that if there's concern for students, someone that they can talk to. They're there with their eyes open to see if someone may be having difficulties. Really, we want to make sure we're able to act on the front end that would prevent any type of incident and provide students with the skills, with the counseling that may be necessary if they are finding some trouble.
Absolutely, and that's interesting that you brought up school counselors, because when you talk safety and security, that's not necessarily the first person you think of, but you're right, they're really instrumental in preventing.
They are. Safety is the whole gamut of our personnel. It's not just a reaction, it's not just a camera, it's not just a different entrance, but it's really being involved in knowing our students so that we can intervene if we see that something is concerning of a child. That there are resources for them in the schools, whether it be the constable or the trooper or the psychologist or a trusted teacher or a trusted administrator. Those folks are there really looking out for the best well-being of all of our students.
Yeah, and based on my movement around the district and my involvement with the Unified Arts folks, I think we really do a nice job with that, in terms of every child has somebody that they trust in the school to be able to talk to, so that they don't get to these frustrating places where they feel like they have to act out, or, of course, that's just one path of student safety.
Yeah, there's so much more to it. Obviously the facilities, as we said, but then there's different programs that the guidance counselors are putting on in their schools that help develop skill sets and how to react to situations, how to be nice to people. Many of our multi-tiered systems of support, really we don't think of that as safety and security, but that's teaching children how to interact with others, how to behave in social situations, how to behave in classroom situations. That's another proactive measure to help teach kids that here's how we're going to act in school, here's how we act in social settings, this is what is appropriate. And you have to teach behavior, just like you have to teach reading. You need to teach behavior to our children.
Absolutely, absolutely. So for that whole bracket of safety and security issues, we've got plans in place for them, as well as for intruders from outside and all of those other things that are so difficult to control.
Yes, we go from the proactive approaches with a PBS type program all the way in being prepared if we have to be reactive to a situation in a school setting. So we're really covering all those bases. We're reviewing it constantly. We meet with the head of security, Mr. Nowell, on a daily basis, making sure that the programs are running, if there's anything that needs to be reviewed, if we need to change traffic patterns in a car line. That's another area of safety that we look at. And that's a big deal here as we start at the school year, making sure that our kids and our car riders and the parents that are driving are in a safe procedure to get the kids in and out of the school building.
Absolutely. Well, Hugh, thank you so much for giving us this view from the top and for giving us the multi-perspectives, that safety and security really does touch everything that we do.
If our kids don't feel safe, they're not going to learn. We want all of our kids learning.
Absolutely, we do. Absolutely. We want them on the strong path to success, for sure.
Yes, indeed.
Yes. Well, thanks a lot again, Hugh. And we're going to take a break now, but please join me for our next guest as we take another look at today's topic. All right. We always have to tell them the topic because I always forget. I always think, oh, God.
what to expect when you're expecting
Like here.
a teenager.
Today, I'm going to show you how to teen-proof your home. First step, hide the car keys. Preferably somewhere they would never look. Challenges will come up. Be ready for them. Hi, honey.
Ready for the... Mom, you don't use mannequins in the mannequin challenge.
You don't have to know it all to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
Welcome back to today's topic on school safety and security. Please join me in welcoming our next guest, Dr. Ted Ammann, who is one of the assistant superintendents of the Red Clay Consolidated School District. Well, hey, Ted.
Hi, Judith. Great to see you.
Oh, it's great to see you too.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, sure. I see you have your red clay red tie on.
I do. I had to wear a red tie for your show.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate you coming out. And,
Not a problem. I
sharing
did bring you a gift. I hope that's okay. I brought you a gift here.
Of course it's okay.
I knew you wanted to talk a little bit about construction.
I do.
So we thought we would give you an honorary hard hat in case you want to get involved in any of our construction projects.
Well, I don't know
I don't want to
anything
mess up your hair if you want.
Yeah. Oh, it's good. It's good. It's a good
Perfect.
fit.
You're hired. We'll get you started next week.
Yeah. I don't know very much about construction, but boy, I could plan the event, have maybe some violins there to people to construct to.
Make it a little more dramatic that way.
Exactly.
Right.
It does. So we're here talking about safety and security.
Sure.
And we know that construction happens at schools, and most of the time we try and make sure it happens in the summer when children aren't there. But sometimes, a leak, a job that needs to be finished, whatever, has to happen during the school year. And so what kinds of safety and security things do you do when we have construction in a building?
Well, just to start out with any of our construction projects, we would take all the same precautions that any organization would take when you have construction going on. We would follow all the life safety rules and so forth to make sure the workers are safe and make sure the building is a safe environment. But you're right, as you mentioned, we all too often are doing construction when kids are in the buildings, and that adds an extra layer of security and safety that we need to work about. So we perform background checks on any outside contractors that are doing any of our major cap work. And we have to keep in mind that a lot of times our kids are in the buildings and they're seeing things that are very interesting to them. They're seeing tools that maybe they haven't seen before, or they see workers walking around with hard hats and goggles and safety equipment that they're not used to seeing. So, people refer to it as an attractive nuisance. It's something the kids see and they're drawn to it. They want to walk over and explore and learn more about it. So,
what are you doing? Why are you pulling that wire through the ceiling?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and that's a double-edged sword. On the one hand, we certainly want to keep them safe, but we also love the fact that it's maybe setting that spark off in a child's interest in what they want to do when they grow up, and maybe they're going to decide to pursue a career in the trades. So we have had times where our construction guys have been willing to take some time off out of their job to go into a classroom and maybe talk with some of our students about careers and how they could get involved in doing some of the fun stuff that they see. Of course, it looks sometimes like a lot more fun than maybe it is to the guy that's doing it. Yeah. But that would be the first step in terms of safety and security with our projects. We do keep in mind that there are teachers and kids in the building, and so we have to make sure we have areas cordoned off so that no one gets hurt. The other piece with our most recent construction project, not just have we been concerned with safety of the actual work that's going on, but a lot of our work had to do with safety. One of the things we looked at is we upgraded a lot of our life safety, our fire alarm panels, smoke detectors, things like that.
Oh gosh,
so that
things that you just rely on. They're almost ubiquitous. You don't even notice them when you walk into a building, but you of course rely on them to be there and working.
Exactly, and that's our job, is to make sure that no one has to deal with that, but we know that it's working and it's there in the background. We spent a lot of time working on our emergency and safety lights so that if there's a power outage, for instance, the hallways are lit so that students can safely get to where they need to go or to get out of the building, things like that. We also added sprinklers. We had some buildings that had not had sprinklers installed.
We do have some old buildings, that's for sure.
We absolutely do. Fortunate, there's some beautiful construction, but along with those older buildings comes some of the codes have changed. So we did bring them up to code and add sprinkler systems. So that made the buildings safer for our students and our employees. The other thing we did, probably the most noticeable piece relating to safety, and I think your previous guest talked a little bit about it, but we changed the front entrance for all of our buildings to make sure that when adults come into the building, they can't just walk right in. Someone in the office needs to allow them in, and then they need to identify who they are and why they're in that building. So that way, our office staff is critical to that. They make sure that before someone's allowed to walk into the hallways, that there's a legitimate reason for them to be in that building. And so that is something that's a very challenging project in some of our buildings because they weren't designed with those types of things.
Right, again, we have some older buildings that, yeah.
Exactly, so we did a lot with that. Another thing we did is we looked a lot at our door hardware and our door frames and our doorways. We have well over 1,000 doors in the district, so we checked all of them to make sure that they were secure, so that if there was a lock on it, it would actually engage and that the doors would be secure. We do run, we have a secure campus and then all of our doors are locked at all times. We added quite a few badge readers. As you've seen, all of our employees have a card, an access card, and they're not able to get into the building without swiping that badge. So that was, we added some of those card swipes. And that way, one of the things that does for us is it gives us an instantaneous list of all of our employees who are in a building at any point in time. So if there is any sort of a drill or any sort of incident, we're able to instantly see who's in the building, who can help respond to that building, that incident and so forth. So that was another piece of our major cap project that we were fortunate to be able to complete. That was a result of a referendum, as you know, and our community was very supportive of making these upgrades.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we are really lucky, blessed, whatever good word you want to use, that our community is supportive and trusts us to do what we say we're going to do, and that trust is good because we do that. We do what we say we're going to do.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, keeping everyone safe is absolutely imperative. You mentioned cameras. Can you talk generally about cameras? I know you don't want to give away any specific locations of things, but
sure. A lot of people. There's been a lot of talk about cameras in schools lately, and I would say we start even before that. We have cameras on all of our buses. We make sure that all of not only our own buses, but buses that we contract with, in order for them to run a contract route for us, we make sure there is a camera recording on that bus, and that helps. Even before an incident, I think it helps kids to feel safer and helps parents to feel safer that we know that we are recording what's happening on that bus, and that can help us if we need to figure out, what's going on that bus and how to help make sure that we're training students to ride safely and not create distractions for the driver. So we do start with those cameras, and then in all of our buildings we have cameras, and we're constantly reviewing where those locations should be and where the best place is for those cameras. Obviously, there's that's educational information that's part of a student's educational record. So we do limit who can use those cameras and who has access to those cameras. But we we think it's very important that in today's day and age, our buildings have coverage for our cameras. We're constantly looking at where we need to add cameras, where we need to maintain cameras, to make sure that that's one more tool for our administrators that are keeping our kids safe and our staff safe.
And I'm sure it's paid off, too, in numerous ways in terms of, if we suspect someone has broken in and stolen something, then we've got camera footage to help prove that.
Absolutely. Our cameras work 24/7. They're usually motion activated, so that way we're not recording when there's nothing happening. But if something happens, if someone enters a building on a weekend or whatever, that we are able to use our cameras to figure out where they entered the building and so forth. So it's a very valuable tool, one of many tools, but it's a very valuable tool to help keep our buildings safe.
Right. Absolutely. Well, thanks, Ted.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Oh, sure. And sharing that information with us. A lot of what you talked about are things that I think people don't normally think of when they think of safety and security, that we have thought it through so well.
Right.
From, as Hugh said earlier, from when the child gets on the bus to when the child gets off the bus, and how we can make everything safe all the way through.
Absolutely. I think that's the whole goal of the whole district operations team, is to make sure that all that's done in the background so that people can focus on the instruction in the classroom and the parents can focus on getting their kids to and from school. And we're, in the background making sure those things are there to help support.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's great, Ted. Thank you very much.
Not a problem.
For
Thanks
that.
for having me.
Oh, sure, sure. And we're going to take another little break now, so grab some coffee or tea, but there is more to come on today's topic. And
So I'm glad you didn't mess up your hair.
oh,
Pardon
I
that.
didn't.
I was
I hope
worried.
so.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
In Red Clay, there's more to being a school nurse than just giving out Band-Aids. Sure, we help prevent the spread of flu and other diseases, but did you also know that we work with physicians to coordinate care? We administer medication and manage chronic disease. We coordinate sports physicals and provide education to students, staff, and communities. We deal with stomach aches, brains, and nosebleeds. We conduct screenings for hearing, vision, and so much more. Plus, we document it all. And sure, we give out the occasional Band-Aid or two as well. Red Clay Nurses, keeping your kids healthy is what we do best.
Welcome back to Red Clay this month. Our next guest is AJ Nowell. He is Red Clay's Public Security Officer. Welcome, AJ.
Well, Judith, how are you today?
I am great. How are you?
Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming.
Oh, no problem.
So now, our first big question. Oh, I see you have your badge.
I have
with
my
you.
badge.
Excellent, excellent. Our first real question to you is, you're a public security officer. Well, what does a public security officer do?
Well, it's a public safety officer, and I'm employed by Red Clay School District. And the public safety office in Red Clay consists of 4 Delaware State police officers who are school resource officers in our schools, and also consists of 5 constables who are retired police officers who also patrol our schools, and I oversee them.
Excellent. So I know you're always focusing on increasing security at Red Clay buildings, keeping us all real safe. What kinds of things are in place?
Well,
without
first of
giving
all,
away any of our secrets,
sure.
of course.
The security of students and staff is paramount in Red Clay. This is my second school year in my current position, and from day one, throughout the district, safety and security comes first. It's very vital. It's very important. So some of the things that I do is, I go around the schools. We check on security, how secure our buildings are. It's important that we have preventive security measures in place, because when preventive security measures are in place, it's walls that are up to protect our students and staff. Most important thing is that all exterior doors should be locked and secured at all times. It's important that staff, administration, custodians are aware of unlocked doors and make sure that they're secured at all times.
So when you go around to visit schools, is that the first thing you do, is like go around to the back and check a couple of doors?
First thing I do is check doors in every building that I go to. And I try to get to 5 or 6 school buildings each day. But it's just not myself that does that. It's the teams at the school.
Of course, they're the front line.
Yes, they are the front line. Yes.
You're just there to give them the gold stars.
That's
because
correct.
you know they're going to do their job, and you can say, I checked, and you
That's
get a
it.
gold star.
That's it.
All your doors
That's
are
correct.
locked.
Yes. And then also other preventative security measures we have in place are all of our classroom doors are locked at all times. We also, all staff members of Red Clay should always have their badges in plain view, so we know who the employees are. All of our guests are to
I have
sign.
mine right in my bag.
There you
I
go.
only took it off for this show. I'll put it back on when I go.
All of our guests must enter through the main office of the school, sign in, show identification, and they get a yellow visitor badge, must be worn around their neck. It's on a lanyard. Must be in plain view at all times also while they're in their school. And then prior to leaving, they return that badge to the main office and their ID is given back. We also...
And our new substitute system, too, has substitutes badging in and out, right?
That's correct. Yes, it's important that we know for the security of our buildings who's in our buildings every day. And we do have a new system with substitute teachers that each school puts in place. So the substitutes are accountable when they arrive and leave in our schools.
Yeah, those are the kinds of people I think that we often, like when we're thinking about, big topics like safety and security and who's in the building, that because they're not there every day,
yes,
they might get forgotten. And so having a system to be sure we know really everybody who is in the building is so good.
Yes, and it's important that incidents throughout the country, substitute teachers have played an important role in incidents that have happened. So it's important that our administration trains the substitutes on our policies and procedures, and I think we've done a really good job at that.
Right, making them members of the team as well.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember reading, I can't remember specifically which incident it was, but a substitute teacher was really instrumental in preventing further harm from happening.
Yes, she was. It was an incident out west where the substitute teacher took control of the situation immediately, secured the students in a classroom, and they were safe because of her quick thinking.
So, right, everybody on the team.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes. Also, we do a good job on maintaining our cameras, make sure they're in proper working condition. If they're not, they contact me immediately, and we get them fixed and repaired. And it's important that if a locking mechanism is not properly working on a door, exterior or interior, that we get notified and it gets fixed as soon as possible.
Absolutely. I know I've walked into I walk into schools a lot, but I see the banks of monitors that are flipping through different camera views.
Yes.
So somebody is always around seeing that.
That's correct.
So it's not just that the cameras are there, but they're actively being monitored by people in the area.
Yes. I cannot stress enough to the administrators how important it is to be cognizant of what's going on in the school and in the parking lot. And we always need to be aware of who's entering on our property. And if you see something, say something. That's the most important thing to remember.
Right.
That if you feel that something's out of place, then notify the proper authority so we can look into it.
Right, because if you feel something's out of place, it probably is.
That's correct.
We who work with teenagers and young ones all the time usually have a pretty good inner radar about that if something's not right,
yes,
we usually feel it.
Yes.
So, and speaking of which, Hugh talked about how proactive we try to be with drills and with practicing things so that everybody does know what to do if something should happen. And I think the Rave Panic Button app.
Yes.
I think that's probably, to me, that's a really impressive thing for us to be doing, like not in reaction to something, but to prevent something from happening.
The Rave Panic Button is an app that was installed last year in all of our administrators' phones. And then this year I'm currently working on adding all the crisis team members of all the schools and staff members strategically placed throughout the building so that they have access to the app.
Tell me 1 minute, let me pause. We haven't talked about crisis team members yet.
Yes.
Can you tell us just a little bit about what each school has a crisis team?
Every school has a crisis team. I meet with them 3 or 4 times a year, each school, each crisis team member, to prepare them for different incidents that would occur in the school. so that we're prepared in many ways. The crisis team is made up of principals, assistant principals, counselors, psychologists, teachers, athletic directors. Because, during a regular course of a school day, we have children that leave early for sporting events and come back. So we added that piece to the puzzle last year. I thought it was important to have all athletic directors on the crisis team.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me.
And we also have nurses. So it's a big team, and the police officers and the constables. It's important that...
So that's probably, 10-ish people in a building?
Approximately 10 to 15 people we have on our crisis teams.
Nice.
That meet regularly.
So somebody is bound to be near where they need to be.
Yes, that's correct.
So they all have I distracted you from the Rave Panic Button
Oh, that's
app.
okay. Yes, so the Rave Panic Button app is put on all of the
crisis
team members'
and
phones.
administrators' phones.
And it's an app that is, you kind of just activate the app by tapping on one of the icons, and it immediately dials 911, and 911 call center knows that there's an incident in a Red Clay school. We build a geo-fence around all of the schools so that if 911 or the app is pushed, then 911 knows that there's an incident in the school, and police officers are responding immediately.
Excellent. So you don't have to actually call 911. You don't have to take the time to speak, or goodness gracious, if it was a situation where you didn't want to speak because you didn't want to reveal your location,
that's correct.
That takes care of it.
It's an app that you hold it down for 1.5 seconds. It dials 911 for you. If you cannot talk, you're not needed to talk, but they know that there's an incident inside the school, which requires police response.
And will the other crisis team members know somebody has activated it?
Yes, that's the good thing about this app. Communication is vital in an incident in school. So once that app is activated by the teacher or a principal, whoever activates it, communication for everyone that has the app will be made simultaneously as 911 is being called. So it gives us a quick tool so everyone in the building is made aware of an incident.
Right, so all of a sudden, with one tap of a button, 911 is called and 15 people are notified something is wrong. Get to your stations.
That's correct. And right now, that's approximately how many staff members in each school have the app. But my goal is, as school starts back up, we're adding more teachers strategically through the building so that all corners of our buildings are covered.
Very good, very good. Speaking of especially these kinds of applications, what kind of planning, not planning really, but what kind of training, I guess, is what I'm asking, happens with our teachers for this or for drills?
I meet, when the app is downloaded on the phones, Rave Panic Button, I meet individually I meet with all the crisis teams, and we show a video of how it's used, and we download it together. We ask questions. The video is about 6 minutes, and then we're ready to go. But other drills that were required, public safety in Red Clay, we follow guidelines that are set forth by Delaware Emergency Management, which falls under Delaware Homeland Security. And we're required to conduct a certain amount of drills each school year.
Like intruder drills?
We do intruder drills, we do fire drills, we do tabletop exercises where I'll meet with the crisis teams. I go out and we review different incidences that could occur on the school proproperty.
Sort of like a little case study. Well,
that's exactly what
would you do if an intruder came through here?
Yes.
Then what would your response be? Oh,
yes.
Nice.
All kinds of different incidents, just to make them aware of our protocol and how to react.
Right. And I think it really helps people so much to have thought through what you need to do before you really need to do it. So that if you do really need to do it, you're not scrambling, oh my goodness, because you're nervous already. What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? You say to yourself, oh my goodness, I'm nervous, but I know what to do.
Well, practice makes perfect.
Right, we practice
and that's
this.
That's why it's
I'll go and
important
do this.
that our teams meet regularly, our crisis teams, so that we are prepared to keep the students safe at Red Clay.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you, AJ. Your dedication to keeping this safety and security in our focus, and your dedication to making sure we have all the right stuff and we have all the right people and all the right people know what to do is much, much appreciated.
Well, thank you.